Hello everyone, so today we are going to do Leetcode daily challenge, Pascal's triangle. So before going to this question, I would first like you to consider the given triangle as right angle triangle. Then it would be much easy for you to solve the question. So now let's go to the question. So here is what we are given with is a triangle. As I already told you, just consider it as a right angle triangle so that your computations would be much easier for you to do. So here we are given an integer nums row. We are only given with an integer, right, nums row, and then we are required to return the first nums row of Pascal triangle. In the Pascal triangle, each number is the sum of two numbers directly above it. So the thing is, like your explanation we discussed, I'll explain you on that board. And the constraints are that num row is still 30, right? So we can easily use a DP solution here as per the constraints. And yeah, now let's switch over the board. So here we were given with that nums row, right? Like 1, 2, 3, any number would be given, and we are required to construct a Pascal triangle. Rather than considering a triangle like this, it's better to consider a triangle like this. It would be much easy for you for all the computations. So now the first row would be always 1. As per the rules of Pascal triangle, our boundary should be always 1. So here the boundary and here the boundary. All of these are 1 only. And the middle values, they would be sum of the just immediate above one and the previous one on the above row. That is this one. So this one would be this and this one would be this. 4 and this 3 and 3 would be 6 and this would be 4. Means the one which is at immediate above and the one which was before that immediate above. We need to sum up both of them, and after sum we need to store at the present block. This is how a Pascal triangle would be constructed. So now the first concern is that we are required that it is mandatory to have 1 on its boundary, so that then only we will be having a Pascal triangle. So in the first row we are having just 1 because it is just one column which is set. In the second row we are again having just 2 boundaries. One is this one is this one. That's why both are having 1. But on the third row, here we are having this boundary being covered, this boundary being covered, but this middle row is being left, right? Now this middle row would be, not row, but this middle column would be the sum of just immediate above and just immediate before, above and before column. So that's why we have added 2 here. So this is how whole triangle would be constructed. So in that context, we are able to get a state that our state would be simply I minus 1, which indicates the previous row, and j minus 1, which indicates just before column to that row, to that column, and just above column. So this is how the TP state comes up. And this j should be from 1 to I, else we will get runtime error for our particular row. And the transition which we are required to do is, it should be that I would be from 0 to nums of row, right? That I would be like this from 0 to nums of row, but the j should be from 1 to I. basically whatsoever I value is there, like here I value would be 0. So j would be just, so here j won't be computed. Earlier only we would be directly defining our values here, right? Basically this one. This is the base case which we are required to fill. That is, the first boundary should be filled with 1 and the second boundary that should also be filled with 1. So this is what we are doing, and each row should be resized to I plus 1, because here you can see it is 0, right? So it is 0 plus 1. This row size is 1 plus 1 2. This row size is 2 plus 1 3, right? So for this manner only we are required to resize each time. So these are the two base conditions which we are required to follow for completing our DP array. Now comes the part that after doing all this, means after constructing this Pascal triangle, after getting the state and transition in which we are required, and even before the state and transition we are required to get a base case. These base cases would cover up the edge cases also. So that's why these are pretty much direct forward base cases. Now comes the part that how would be the time complexity of the solution. So before time complexity, let us code the solution. But it is straightforward that there would be two loops, and these two loops would be in that condition, that are outer loop, that is for I loop. It would be simply from 0 to num's row, right? And for each of this we are required to go our j from 1 to I, right? So this inner loop would be something like 1, then it would run 2, then it would run 3 times, then it would run 4 times. Like this it would run for each value of I, right? So because of that only, it completely converts into the Gaussian formula, that is n into n plus 1 by 2, right? So according to this, our time complexity would be simply order of n square. Here n simply refers to num rows, and the space complexity is order of 1, because we are not using any extra space apart of that space in which we are storing our answer, because TP of I would be simply storing our answer only, so that's why we are not considering it in our auxiliary space. So that's why our space complexity is directly order of 1. So now after this, let me walk you through the code, that how we are required to code this particular solution. So here, as we had devised according to that only, what we are going to do is, we are first having a vector of vector int answer nums of row. We would be having same replicate, what I can say, not a replication, but simply we would be having vector of vector, a 2D vector basically, whose rows would be simply equals to number of rows. Means this would be simply nums of rows. We would be having this much because we are required to return a Pascal triangle like this. Now comes the part that we are required to iterate over each row. For iterating over each row, first we would be resizing our row and adding 1 to our boundaries. So this is what we are doing. This is for our first boundary, that is our leftmost boundary, and this is for our rightmost boundary. Now comes the next part, our transition and state. So our state is something like this, which I have already told, and even the reason. And a transition is because of all this. Basically, we would be going from 1 to I, and our I would be going from 0 to nums of row. So like this, we would be able to get our answer, and then at the end, we would be returning our answer. So this is all which we are required to do in this particular question. So if there is any doubt, you could directly comment that down. I hope you liked the explanation. So do like and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.